Welcome to Today at Wayne, a podcast that engages and informs the Wayne State University campus community. With news, announcements, information, and current events discussions relevant to the university's goals and mission, Today at Wayne serves as the perfect forum for our campus to begin a conversation or keep one going. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Today at Wayne podcast. I'm Daryl Dawsey. A man many people call a living legend turned 100 years old recently. Yet another milestone achievement for Guy Stern, a retired Wayne State professor who has lived a life that seems ripped from movies. A former refugee from Nazi Germany, Stern later helped fight the Axis power when he joined the U.S. Army in 1943 as one of the Ritchie Boys, a special unit of approximately 9,000 mostly Jewish refugees who were trained to gather intelligence. He earned a Bronze Star for his service. Years later, Stern became a globally respected scholar in German literature and is credited with having co-created the academic discipline of exile studies, which highlights the contributions of authors, poets, playwrights, and others who've been forced to leave the country of their birth. After that, he joined the administration at Wayne State, serving as provost, senior vice president, and eventually distinguished professor of German literature and cultural history. He recently released his memoir, Invisible Ink, and remains active in the community, largely through his service at the Zeckelman Holocaust Center in Farmington Hills. And he's here with us today to talk about his amazing life. We want to say welcome, Guy Stern. How are you today, Guy?
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Thanks so much for joining us. So let's talk a little bit about your life. You recently turned 100 years old, and you were just featured on 60 Minutes as one of the Ritchie Boys in World War II. Tell us a little bit about what keeps you going. You've published your memoir. You are still working at the Zeckelman Holocaust Center. What keeps you kind of rolling, Guy? What keeps you going?
Well, I tell you, I'm the sole survivor from the Holocaust in my family. All my close family, my parents, my siblings were murdered during the Holocaust. And so I felt that I, as the sole survivor, was of necessity obliged to lead a worthwhile life. And that kept me going. And then I found out that I had no monopoly on this incentive. Several of the survivors felt just as I did. And I must say, then as I read about it, it was even given a name. It was called the survivor syndrome. So I was not alone in this. That incentive has sustained me all my life.
Now, after you left Germany, you joined the United States Army, and you fought. You were a part of the Ritchie Boys. You were at Fort Ritchie in Maryland. You gathered intelligence and interrogated Nazi prisoners. Was that satisfying to you in a certain way, given that you are a survivor? And was it also terrifying? What was that like for you as a survivor to be able to participate and fight Nazi Germany?
With the uniform and my becoming an American citizen, I had no hesitation. I was an American soldier doing my job for which I was trained. So I had every incentive, yes, personal as well as patriotic, to do my job. And that is what really kept me going.
Okay. Can you give us an example of an interrogation or an interview that is vivid still in your mind, that still stands out?
Yes, one of the ploys that we were taught at Camp Ritchie was to find a common interest with a prisoner. And that, so my misspent early childhood as a soccer fanatic paid off, because I found, when I was asked to give a survey of the leadership, German industrial leadership in the city of Düsseldorf, I found a prisoner who really was a native of Düsseldorf, had lived there most of his life. And so I started out talking about his native soccer team. And I asked him, well, look, you were Fortuna Düsseldorf was on top of the heap at mid-season, and then you got lower and lower. He answered that question, draft and everything. And so he completely forgot that we were wearing different uniforms. We were just two soccer fans, and I was able to lead him exactly to the revealing what I needed to report to my superiors.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's an amazing story. Well, now, you've lived this incredible life, and you recently published Invisible Ink, which is your memoir. Tell us a little bit about what you learned as you were publishing this memoir, as you were writing this memoir, and was it difficult for you as you look back on your life?
Well, there was a lot of tragedy in my life. That's quite correct. Of course, it was also a spur to do your job well, because I didn't know about the fate of my family. And besides doing my job, as every GI did in that war, I was also impelled to do what I could, if I could still do something for my family.
Talk about your book.
Now, you've made some amazing transitions in your life, going from soldier to academic to university administrator. Can you talk to the people just a little bit about why you've been successful in making such dramatic transitions from point to point in your life?
Well, I try to hint at it in answering your first question, and that is that the incentive remained the same. I was let's call it what it was, let's call it a patriot and someone who had every reason to be a good interrogator, furnish information, and that was and remained my life.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about you being here. You were born in Germany. You've taught at a lot of places: Columbia, the University of Maryland, the University of Cincinnati, and yet you stay in the Detroit area. Tell us a little bit about what keeps you in the Detroit area.
There were several reasons. One of them was that I felt a university dedicated to giving equal opportunity to everyone within its range in Detroit and beyond. Secondly, I would call it chercher la femme, because I found a woman in Detroit that I liked greatly, subsequently married, and that was a further incentive. And there might have been some other attractions, but the service to everyone and love, in addition, kept me in the Detroit area, even
Wonderful.
when some other offers came along.
Well, love is the key. That's very true. Well, listen, you retired from Wayne State in 2003 as a distinguished professor. You'd also served as provost. You've received numerous awards and distinctions as an instructor and as a scholar. Can you tell us what are you most proud of from your time at Wayne State?
There were several. One of them was that as provost, I could uh, bring some, when there were some difficulties or differences between colleagues, I could serve as a peacemaker because I had sympathy for every attitude.
Mm.
Secondly, I was proud of that. Secondly, I had a model from Cincinnati, which was that the best scholars were united in an association. And I thought we have scholars here at Wayne who at who are just as gifted and as productive as I've seen in my previous job. And so I was uh, I found a way to put that into practice by founding, together with a colleague, founding the Academy of Scholars. And that has been a very good asset and also something that has evolved through the years and something that uh, Wayne State is still proud of.
Okay. Now, on a personal note, you work at the Zeckelman Holocaust Center in Farmington Hills. Tell us a little bit about why it's important, the work that you do, and why it's important for folks to know about the center and to visit.
Yes, I had several jobs there, but what I'm doing now is the most rewarding. I am the director within the uh, Holocaust Center, the so-called um, Center for Altruistics, or it has several names. And here it is the uh, one important lesson that I, in doing my job, learned for myself. And that is that we must not judge people as a group, but rather as individuals. It is wrong to say all Scotsmen are uh, skinflints, or every uh, German is whatever. And so I learned not to make huge judgments, but look at people for what they are personally and as individuals. Mass judgments lead us to mistakes.
Very true. Very, very true. Now, you've had a long and illustrious career as a scholar. You've been an author, you're a husband, you're a father, decorated veteran, a pillar in the Jewish community. Is there one of these titles that you're most proud of, and why?
That's a hard question to answer because you want to succeed in all of them. And put on one man in his time plays many parts. So I feel I put on whatever hat, be it a cap and gown, you put on what you are doing at the moment. And so I can't rightly choose between all of those as one outstanding one.
Okay, I understand. Well, those are all great titles, great titles. Uh, you just turned 100 years old. That's something that many of us can only dream of, to be so fortunate. What is it like to celebrate turning 100 years old?
It was wonderful. The behind my back, some of my colleagues, my friends, and well-wishers staged a how should I call it, a show of rhetoric that uh, praised me, and uh, I felt I had no right to put those coats on, but it also was a very human display. Uh, when people whom I had worked with uh, all my life gave testimonials. That was a wonderful display. The whole day, uh, a couple of days after my birthday, was filled with reminiscences, and they brought up memories for me, and it touched me deeply that I was being uh, remembered by my colleagues.
Okay. Well, now, of course, because of 60 Minutes, everybody's talking about your role in World War II as one of the Ritchie boys. And that was important, but it was a short time. And so much of your life was spent as a professor of German studies. You stood in front of students for about 50 years. What is it that you would like to be remembered for as a professor, as a scholar, as a scientist?
Yes, as a professor, I like to be remembered as a person who tried to teach not just a specialist subject, but to teach also values. And so I was able to weave into my lectures also something like saying, it's important to learn as students to think for yourself. As when you are um, touched, or when people try to propagandize, ask what is their motives. And that was a lesson beyond, and that is, I think, an important part. Or don't become so involved as a specialist in a certain subject that you do not see the life around you. For example, I gave a lecture after the uh, uh, discriminatory practices and murder in Ferguson, and I was able to link my subject with the social message that had to be given.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, that shows that struggle helps us cross and bridge a lot of gaps and a lot of differences. Guy, I want to say thank you for taking your time to join us today. We really appreciate your history, your life, your service, your contributions to the community. We want to say thank you again.
And thank you once more for having me on your program.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This is Daryl Dawsey. This has been the Today at Wayne podcast. Thanks for listening to Today at Wayne. We'd love to hear from you, our campus community, about other podcast ideas and topics. What compelling things are you doing to spread the good word about living, learning, working, and playing like a warrior? Let us know by visiting todayatwayne.edu.